For today's lesson, we're going to be multiplying and dividing rational numbers, and today focusing on decimals. So as a reminder, multiplying, we're finding groups of or multiples of a number. Dividing, when we're splitting into even groups. And rational numbers are numbers that can be written as fractions, but today we're focusing on decimals. Now, the reason I keep emphasizing this, that numbers can be written as fractions, is because sometimes you're going to get a decimal like 1.25 divided by 2.5, and maybe decimal division isn't your strong suit. You could write these as fractions, 1 1/4 divided by 2 1/2, and then follow some easier procedures to solve problems. But today we're going to focus on decimals. For example 1, we're going to look at multiplying these decimals. Now, unlike adding and subtracting, we don't need to line the decimals up. I have 3 77/100 multiplied by 2 8/10. Now you'll notice that I haven't put any signs in there because I'm just going to look at the sign at the very end of the problem. When I multiply, I'm going to do each one in a different color so that you can see the patterns of multiplication. 8 times 7 is 56. 56 plus 5 gives me 61. And then 3 times 8 is 24, plus 6 is 30. Next, whenever I move on to my next row, I have a placeholder value of 0. Then 2 times 7 is 14. 2 times 7 is 14 again, plus 1 is 15. And then 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7. When I add, I get a 6, 5, 5, and 10, and I count my decimal places in the end. So that's 1, 2, 3, and from the back, 1, 2, 3. That gives me 10.556, and since I had a positive times a negative, it gives me a negative as my final answer. Now you can utilize some of those estimation procedures that we used before. Round the 377 to about 4, multiplied by negative 2.8 to about negative 3. That should give you, I did it again, about negative 12. And negative 10.556 is actually pretty close to negative 12. For B, this time, instead of putting the 9.4 on top, the first number, I'm putting the longest number on top, 1.65, because it's going to make me have fewer rows to add in the end. I'm multiplying 1.65 by 94, and then I'm going to use a different color for each row. 5 times 4 is 20, 6 times 4 is 24, plus 2 is 26, 1 times 4 is 4, plus 2 is 6, and then I have my placeholder value of 0. 9 times 5 is 45, 9 times 6 is 54, plus 4 is 58. 9 times 1 is 9, plus 5 is 14. I add them together, 0, 11, 15, 5, and 1, and count my decimal places, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and I get a positive 15 and 51/100 as my final answer. You could keep the 0 on the end, but it is unnecessary. For example 2, we're going to be dividing decimals. As a reminder, the first number goes inside of the box, 13.92, and the second number goes on the outside, 1.2. Now, in order to make it easier, we're going to make the outside number a whole number by multiplying 10, which means I have to match it on the inside to keep it equal. I can then divide 12 into 13. It goes once. 12 goes into 19 one time. And then 12 goes into 72 6 times, giving me a final answer of negative 11.6. For B, again, my first number goes on the inside, 2.7. And my second number goes on the outside, 0.25. I'm going to move my decimal so I have a whole number in the outside. So that means I multiplied it by 100 to get it here, which means I multiply this number by 100 to keep my equation equivalent, or to keep my expression equivalent. 25 does not go into 2, but it does go into 27 one time. I got a 2, bring down the 0. 25 goes into 20 no times. 0, 20, bring down a 0. 25 goes into 200 8 times. That gives me exactly 200 and 0. And a negative divided by negative is a positive 10 and 8/10. Here are the two problems for you to try. Pause, try them on your own, and then play and check your answer. Ready? For number 1, I'm going to multiply 6 and 712 thousandths by 3.5. I put my longest number on top to make the multiplication easier. 2 times 5 is 10. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 1 is 6. 5 times 7 is 35. 5 times 6 is 30, plus 3 is 33. For my second row, I need a placeholder value. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 7 is 21. 3 times 6 is 18, plus 1 is 20. When I go to add them, that gives me 9, 4, 3, and 2. And this time, I had 1, 2, 3, 4 moves of my decimal, giving me 23.492, or 23 and 492 thousandths. For number 2, my first number goes on the inside and my second number on the outside. My decimal moves twice, so multiplied by 100. And I bring it up. 3 goes into 4 once, and 3 goes into 15 5 times. Now, just because you get 0 doesn't mean we're quite done, because we still have an empty spot between the 5 and the decimal. 3 goes into 0, 0 times, and now that we've hit that decimal, we can be done. So a negative 4.5 divided by negative 3/100ths gives me 150 for my final answer.